They fix the audio on there.
All good. Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. This is a meeting of the Gloucester School Committee. And I will call the meeting to order. The public is welcome to attend our meetings in person or alternatively through the Zoom link provided on the agenda. The meeting notice will reflect if the meeting is Zoom only. As the recent amendments to the open meeting law allow, the school committee may continue to hold meetings in it. Please note that in-person meetings will not be suspended or terminated if technological projects interrupt the remote connection. Keith, I just want to make sure you can hear us, okay? Keith?
Keith, can you hear us?
Now he's going.
He could, he texted that he could hear us.
Okay, so we're good. Okay, I will state that the mission of Gloucester Public Schools is for all students to be successful, engaged, lifelong learners. And I ask that you stand.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item of business is oral communication. If there is anybody that would like to address the school committee, please raise your hand and I will read the guidelines for oral communications. The public shall have the opportunity to, at every regular school committee meeting, to be heard under oral communications. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to the school committee business to appear before the school committee, state their problem without debate, and the matter may be referred to the proper subcommittee. For items that are on the agenda, members of the public may address the committee with permission of the chair. Persons speaking under oral communications shall be limited to 3 minutes each and shall submit a copy of their prepared communication to the recording secretary. Okay, I see one hand raised. We have no one physically in attendance with us. So CR, you can speak.
Hi, the dear members of the Gloucester School Community Memo. What?
We're having
audio troubles.
Okay.
Hold on just a minute. We're just, you're coming through broken up and we
Sure.
know it's on our side, not yours. Most likely.
See if she can speak again. Can you try again? Can you speak again, CR?
Sure. Hi. Can you hear it?
No, still coming in broken up. Give us a minute to try and fix it. Try now, please.
Sure. Hi. Is it working?
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
that'll work.
Much better. Yes, name and address for the record.
Oh, thank you so much. Catherine, Ryan, and 17 High Rock in Gloucester. The dear members of the Gloucester School Community Memo claims to be a goodwill update about contract negotiations to keep the public informed and that it's clear and concise, and it's the opposite. It's one-sided and lengthy, may be misleading, may even be a breach of contract negotiations. It comes across as the school committee in Gloucester are being forced to pay teachers $125,000, that teachers make that much money, while school committee is amply generous, offering a top salary of $104,000. The problem is that specific details, context, and the breakdown within the school budget as a whole are absent from this document, and the budget PowerPoint presentations the administration prepares unintentionally may even broadcast that our city is so fiscally unsound it can't pay essentials like teacher salaries. The message leaves out key details such as the structured tier steps, the salary caps, contract negotiations which stretch out years and split raises, 1%, 3%, 2%, or some such nonsense. Teachers and paras are held in these negotiation frames that average 3 to 5 years and do not get annual raises in those timeframes. So a transparent update would define the salary positions and clarify how many teachers have accrued years and are at the top step, which is capped. How many teachers are at each step? How many are at the doctor level? What salary can a brand new teacher make? What if they're a brand new teacher that's maybe in their 30s and changed careers? They might even have a master. The same should be for the para salaries. You should itemize the para salary trajectory from the entry para salary to the top para salary. And again, regarding expanding paid leave benefits and sick days, be specific. Describe how many years before any teacher would accrue that many days. What percentage of staff use up their days versus those that accrue? Is there a staff attendance problem? On average, how many get buybacks? While you're at it, what are the salaries, benefits, and raises for the top 5 school administrator positions? Superintendent, assistant superintendent, treasurer, et cetera, and staff. What are the salaries and benefits for the school committee members? What are the salaries for any consultants hired in the district since the last teacher and para contracts were signed? What are the unintended costs? How many staff have left and why? Where are any new positive and supportive ideas for staff? A healthy district wants to keep and attract teachers. Maybe you can offer better payout, can lift its cap as an incentive for those lucky enough to dodge illness after decades, less money than hiring subs for a day. This update is a public admission that school committee isn't supporting staff, and it's undermining the competitive ability to attract teachers to the district and keep students safe and the district thriving. I encourage Gloucester's elected leaders, school committee, mayor, city councilors, and school administration to support the teachers and the para contract requests. Right now, the city and the school are blaming the tight budget, and the educator pay and paras are undermined. For goodness sakes, the priority of any district and pride of its community is a great school system that can pay its teachers. Before there is any discussion about another school consolidation or regionalization, support the teachers and para contract requests, be forthright about budget items like renting the school administration building for years, which could fit in the high school with the steep enrollment decline, a decline which is not due to lower birth rates and other things, but is in fact a direct result of school choice out.
Catherine, you have 10 seconds, please.
And I'm on my last sentence, Kathy, thank you. And a chaotic decade focused away from the essential priorities of paying staff and being safe, and instead have been focused on things like the school buildings and the Gloucester Education Foundation, and not defining the civil rights abuses and, more importantly, the transparency that you're saying and espousing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay,
So no one else is. No other
Yeah.
hands are up.
we have no other hands raised, so that concludes our oral communications. Recognitions. Anybody have anything they'd like to bring up?
Yeah, I posted something on the school committee page today just about backyard grows. Just want to give them a quick shout out, the work that they do in all the schools, and really impressive, the effort and the job that they do. That's the program that they offer. Backyard grows. Second.
Go ahead.
Health Department, past Saturday was the city Halloween party, so I just want to say thank you to the drama kids who did face painting. The ROTC was involved in the gorilla cage, so we had a gorilla suit, it was really fun. What else do we have? They just have them volunteering all over the place, so the drama kids, the JRTC, and I'm forgetting another organization, but thank you to those types of kids who came out and dedicated a whole day for the little kids to the city.
Okay.
Keith has raised his hand.
I just wanted to, I noticed Jordan Mackey has his hand raised from before in public comment. Is that on your end too?
Jordan's one of our student advisory councils.
Oh, okay, thank you, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so the next item is our Gloucester High School Student Advisory Council. We have Jordan Mackey and we have Jane Herman with us. Thank you for coming, and Jane, our apologies for the audio issues last meeting.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm Vice President of eBoard. Tonight I have a couple notes. Think Pink shirts. We started selling them last week and this week, and the photo is this Friday during the school day. SATs and PSATs. Last Friday, seniors took the SAT in school, and this Friday, juniors and sophomores will be taking the PSAT in school as well. Comparative government election. The GHS mock election will be held on October 29th. All students will be called down to vote during their history classes. Ms. D'Antonio has created an electoral college system based on class size. AP Comparative Government students will be running the election and counting the votes. This week, all students are being informed of the voting process and ballot contents. We are excited for all voices to be heard. Lastly, next Thursday is our Halloween parade. Students and staff are able to dress up to participate in the parade. And I think there might be an issue. Jane's not on tonight. It's Taya Mano. So I'm going to pass that to her.
Okay,
But that's
great,
all I
thank
have.
you.
Thank you.
James, is that Jane or?
I see Jane's name, but you may be signing in with, okay. Taya, you can, unmute yourself. You can speak.
Yeah, issues.
Hi, I'm Taya Mano. I don't know why it says Jane Herman, but here we go. Okay, I'm treasurer, but first off, it's mental health first aid program. Freshmen in Miss Goulart's health class are participating in the 6-week teen mental health first aid training certificate program. This is coordination with the Gloucester Health Department. Each student will get 6 sessions of instructions presented by trained community members. DECA Fall Leadership Conference. Yesterday, DECA attended the annual Fall Conference hosted by Bentley University. This gave GHS DECA students the opportunity to develop professional skills, network with other DECA members, and participate in the workshops. News from the Health Center. GHS Student Health Care Center recently hired bilingual community health worker Deza Mata to assist all GHS students, including multilingual learners, in navigating their health and wellness. Deza is fluent in English and Spanish. She works in the health center to connect GHS students and their families to health insurance, primary care doctors, dentists, and exams, and among other resources. And that is all the news we have for today.
Thank you. Thank you both for joining us this evening. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. And you're welcome to stay always, but we understand that usually no one stays from here. And that's absolutely fine.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Good night. Okay. Next item of business is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any items they would like to move? Wait, none? We have a motion?
Motion to accept the consent agenda? Second.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, no, we have to do roll call
Yeah, roll.
because Keith's online.
Mr. Melvin,
Yes.
Chairperson Clancy.
Yes.
Mr. McKean.
Yes.
Mr. Minio,
Yes.
Mayor Verda.
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved. So next item is deliberations on education issues and the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Clancy. So, a few things to start off. As always, we like to start off with my report, reminding folks that every day matters and everybody belongs in the Gloucester Public Schools. So I'll go over some updates around the district and then move into our MCAS report. MCAS report from elementary through middle school. So here we have just quite a gathering at the O'Malley Science Center. So Senator Bruce Tarr and Representative Anna Margaret Fronte both came by in a tour hosted by Principal Mike Titus, who's here with us tonight, and also GF and two Gloucester Education Foundation. So just really appreciate both of our legislative leaders coming by and learning about our sale cars, seeing our 8th grade students in action, scaling up their sale car sales from a 1/4 model to a full-size model. You can see in the back on the right-hand side is one of the sale cars on the wall where it's stored. And it was a great example to show our legislative leaders how math and science are working together in our science center, with great support, and also the sort of, they got a good picture of not only the significant aid project with the sail cars and how math and science work together, but also looked at the bio lab, learn more about that, and how our seventh graders combine biology and fish and plants to create their own ecosystems, some of which are brought home. It might be eighth graders, I can't know. And then also saw just the great facilities between our middle school engineering lab with our 3D printers, and also this other the other lab which shows where we do a lot of the biology as well. So just a great tour. Really appreciate their support, and they would like to bring in other legislative leaders to see it. The Manly Science Center is a real example and model for other schools. It's a rare occurrence in middle schools, something that middle school, like almost no middle schools have. The level of scientific exploration of our students, but also the quality of the leadership and staff, and then also the quality of all the materials that kids have access to. One of the things we really appreciate most, it is an opportunity for our kids to lab science in middle school, but also build things with their hands, and explore science and math and integrate science, math, and also English and even social studies now all together in their studies. So really appreciate the leadership from Rachel Titus, and Amy Donnelly, Dave Brown, and then also from the Gloucester Education Foundation for being such great supporters over many years for that. Here we are, the DHS student Tanika Sinclair, who helps at the preschool, and one of our paraprofessionals, Tony Catalini. We're helping to hang the new preschool banner, highlighting everybody matters, everybody belongs. As you may remember, this design, which we have in all of our buildings, all of our school buildings, was created by Kelsey Frontero, DHS student, former student graduate. And just really appreciate them putting that sign up. And then also we have coffee hours for our English learner families every year, our annual coffee hours, and we even held theirs today, and we have them scheduled at all of our schools, pre-K through 8. And then the high school does a whole evening for our multilingual learner families. And these are opportunities for us to meet some of our families, create connections, create relationships, develop trust, but also help multilingual families who may be new to the schools or new to the country, and are certainly new to learning English, about the importance of a lot of school activities, including school conferences, attendance of their children, and then also learn about volunteer opportunities. We really want all of our families, especially our newcomer families and our multilingual families, to play a real role in the fabric of our school community, and also learn about the English Learners Parent Advisory Council as well. We started 2 years ago. So just really, that's a great way for us to connect with our multilingual families. Here's some photos from today's coffee hour at Beacon. Also are always promoting different ways, safety and healthy ways of getting to school. So we had a walk, bike, roll to school day. This was Beeman students walking or riding or rolling from O'Malley, where they gathered together on the 9th of October, and then going together to Beeman up Cherry Street. More examples of kids on their way. At this point, really arriving Beeman. Theater program is underway. I want to make sure that folks are that they're building the sets. Here's a picture of them designing a first set, building the first set, and wanted to remind folks that there's still time for students to sign up for Tech Crew for this fall's play. Tech Crew and actors and performers are just a great community, really fun community, also really connected community, and play a great important role in our theater and arts program. So, Cops and Kids at West Parish. So as you know, our community impact unit, including our SROs, play a really strong and important role in our schools. And here's kicking off the Cops and Kids program at West Parish. This is a student meeting our officers. So I believe you see Officer Chabrini And Officer Terra there, and of course Ace, the Wonder Dog. And kids are getting started on collecting their police card collection. If they collect all the police cards, I believe they get a ride to school in a cruiser, which is pretty cool if you're in elementary school. And that's East Veterans there, cops and kids. So this is actually this is more than our SROs. SROs obviously are helping to lead it, but it's great outreach and connection between our public safety officers and our students. Also this time of year, folks may be aware, even if you don't live in Salem, that there's something called Halloween around the corner. And the Gloucester schools, we take it very seriously. All of our elementary schools have a trunk or treat. You know, Manly does as well, right? No. Okay.
We have
We have a Halloween.
we have a Halloween dance,
Party,
right.
Halloween dance, there we go. I thought I had that wrong. So here's some pictures from East Veterans Trunk or Treat, which happened at Sageport Park last Friday. 3 of the 4 elementary schools have their, there's a 4 from East Veterans. Great photos. East Veterans, Beaman and West Parish all had their trunk or treats last Friday. This Beaman one here, I was able to attend. I saw Mr. McKean there, and also Ms. Weeson. More photos of Beaman trunk or treat. A lot of candy, lots of candy. And here's some photos of West Parish trunk or treat as well. That looks like Star Wars on the right, and glow sticks on the left. And then Plum Cove is doing theirs this Friday. Great preschool. Preschool is also in the fun. They're doing the pumpkin painting as well as their next week they will have their Halloween parade. As we heard, the high school have as well. Pumpkin painting their pumpkins. West Parish had their assembly about biodiversity. So Billy B, who uses science and humor and dance and music to help engage students and learn about biodiversity and the importance of learning why biodiversity is declining and how to help protect biodiversity. Biodiversity, is related to issues such as pollution, deforestation, and overfishing, and how maintaining biodiversity is crucial to the survival of not only species, all these species, human species, but also the earth as well. So really appreciate, and students had a lot of fun at that assembly there for West Parish. And here you can see Billy B here in action with the students dancing and singing, and with some good props there too, showing the earth and showing the biodiversity. And the Gloucester High School open house for middle school families. So we start our transition processes for folks going from 5th grade to 6th grade, and also 8th grade to 9th grade in the fall, to make sure folks get a really good sense and feeling of what's ahead for them, whether they're going to middle school or high school. And this Thursday, we're having the Gloucester High School open house for middle school families to welcome future DHS students. And this is there's a parent panel, there's a student panel. They get to meet and learn about different programs and classes and science and academic classes, as well as clubs, and they'll get a sense of all the opportunities that will await them and their families when they get to here at the Gloucester High School. I'm really looking forward to kicking off those activities. And then just quickly, this is on your agenda. I want to talk about a great CPT, one of the CPTE grants that are coming. This one's on your agenda tonight. This is Ruth Pino, who's a local citizen and longtime Cambridge, Gloucester resident. She has donated through Gloucester Education Foundation money in memory of her husband to build a material storage building outside of Fort Carpentry, just outside the carpentry shop. The building's going to allow for proper storage of raw materials, and it's going to reduce costs associated with replacing materials that don't get stored properly or get damaged during storage, especially when they're stored outside. It'll also allow us to take materials that are stored in the wood shop out of the wood shop, creating more workstations for our students, so we can expand the capacity of the program. The building will use one solar panel to power a fan and heat and circulate air to help keep the lumber dry. And all the carpentry installation and also the installation of the solar panel in the building will be built by our GHS carpentry students. And also, obviously, electrical students will help out with the installation of the solar panel on the fan. It's going to be 12 by 20 foot structure, which is outside on the carpentry loading dock. to be built on cement pad, so if it needs to be removed at any time, it can be. They're going through the permitting process right now. And then the structure is gonna be 3 feet away from the curb, it's situated entirely in the grassy area. We will remove 3 dying pine trees. However, we're working with 400 Trees Gloucester to replace them at GHS. We're working with DPW to make sure they're placed in a proper location. Do that. I may even get more than 3 trees out of 400 Trees Gloucester, so we'll do that. So that is the extent of my report tonight. Any questions or clarifications? Pass things along to Pasquarello and our team. You cannot share. We can do that. That's the fair. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through the MCAS results and accountability. These are the principals of 3 of our 4 elementaries and middle school, and Kate Robinson here as well, our curriculum coordinator at middle school, to share part of the presentation and answer questions.
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Jewett, can you start by introducing yourself?
I'm Dan Chua, I'm Principal of Plum Cove.
Selena Emma, Principal of West Parish.
Matt Fusco, Principal of East Veterans. Mike Tennis, Principal at O'Malley Middle School.
Kate Robertson, Curriculum and Instruction Coordinator at O'Malley Middle School.
And Principal Janoti, not
Right.
Oh, welcome. So I want to start off by sharing some statewide observations. Then this came from Desi, and so statewide, we're seeing the ELA results show lower achievement in all grades from 2023. That's what the state had noticed across all schools. We also noticed that the math results showed improved achievement in 3rd grade amongst relatively flat results among the rest of the grades. But the statewide science results showed improvement in achievement in grades 5 and 10 with some lower achievement. I just show this to you as for your context for when we look at our specific data. We're talking about achievement and growth. I want to remind everyone of a superintendent's goal last year, our district goal.
Thank you.
Sorry, our district-wide goal, the one that shows urgency but yet patience. Our goal is, the long-term goal is to have 80% of our students meeting or exceeding, and to show a high growth, which is at 60%. We do not measure things with just MCAS. We also use DIBELS, E&I, for elementary, STAR 360 for both ELA and math, from actually grades 2 through 12. We use MCAS and access scores as well. So we're using the same expectations or setting the same goals. A reminder about student growth percentiles. You've all seen this before. So an average growth for a student for a year, within a year, is 40 to 59 percentile. It marks how much they've grown compared to their like peers. If they have 39 or below, it's considered low growth, and that 60 to 99 is a high growth. So when we are looking to make growth, when we're looking to close gaps, we want high growth so that we can get that. So that's often the times the first thing we're looking at. So on this slide, it shows grades 3 through 5 across the districts, and this is students meeting or exceeding in comparison to the state. And we're also going to focus on student growth as well. Our 3rd grade students this particular year did not fare as well as the state. They're actually a little bit behind, so it's something we really need to look into. And our coaches and principals and our ILTs, which are instructional leadership teams, we'll talk about that in a little bit, are really diving into that data to see what's happening there. Our 5th grade, however, is faring either at for mathematics or above the state in ELA and in science. So that is very encouraging. So we want to get to be more of those green spots where we're either at or above where the state is testing. And I do want to point out two nice growth spots is 4th grade math. That's in 54. It's not meeting our 60%, but that's on the higher end of growth, and we're happy to see that, as well as 5th grade math is at 52. If we move on to the middle school, same tests. We are, the two spots I want to point out that we are close to the state on is 7th grade ELA and 8th grade science. We're within range of the states. We are below in the other areas. In particular, math is something that you're going to notice is lower than ELA. I do want to remind the committee that last year we piloted 3 math curriculums throughout the year. Selected a new curriculum about December or January of last year, and full implementation of the new curriculum is this year. So we are hopeful and focusing on it, more than just hoping, that those scores will turn around and come up. Our higher growth here is the 47. We wanted at least over 50. Remember, we're aiming for that 60%. That's why it's in blue. It's the highest of the category, but we'd like some higher. And again, concerning is the growth, and it is all in math. And again, that was a pilot year. We're really working to turn that around moving forward. I thought it would be a good thing to reintroduce this slide. This is a slide that talks about change management. And when you're implementing any new curriculum, and we have seen this with Wit and Wisdom, we've seen this with other curriculum that we are implementing, and at O'Malley with having on our second year of ELA Amplify and our first year of ELA Desmos. I want to remind the committee of this. All implementation, we get excited, people get involved. It's oftentimes where people give up along the way, or they don't see the potential, they look for the potential too soon and they give up. There's often this implementation dip. Principal Tice has talked about this at a previous meeting. And it's really important that we stay the course. It's really important that we continue the professional development and continue to watch the data. We continue to teach the curriculum to fidelity with tweaks along the way that we make together collaboratively to make sure that we get through the implementation dip and start to see results. So some of the scores are a little concerning. I want to remind the committee that we are working through this and we are committed to stay the course and to see the results. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, just one thing. So I was walking in some classrooms the other day and I spoke to a 7th grade math teacher just to give kind of an anecdotal example of how different a year of implementation versus piloting is. They were doing some work in the 7th grade classroom, and that 7th grade teacher let me know that they were doing the lesson I was seeing is being done months earlier than it was last year. So the amount of content that they're going to be able to get through, the amount of time they can spend on these, they've picked up so much more time now that we're in full implementation and not trying to figure out what the best product is. So, we do have a lot of momentum right now going into this year, and a lot more time to dive deeper and cover more material compared to last year.
Looking at our language proficiency for students, this is for students in non-high school, so that's grades 3 through 8. So these are the students for access scores. We have met our target of kind of staying the course at this level. I do want to note that our first year ML or EL students are not included in this data. Chronic absenteeism, we continue to show growth. We exceeded our targets for all students. We have met or improved below targets for all others. Hispanic and Latino is the only one in grades 3 through 8 that it declined slightly. But we are going in the right direction overall for reducing our chronic absenteeism. I do want to celebrate it, but I also want to note that we are not yet at pre-pandemic rates. We need to continue working at this. We are making nice growth, but we are not at pre-pandemic rates yet. And I'm going to switch a little to accountability. So this is how they, DESE scores our schools overall. They take in several factors. They look at achievement and student growth, and that so far is mostly what I have shown you. They do look at high school completion. That will not be part of this presentation. That'll be at our next meeting when we talk about the high school MCAS scores. They also look at progress towards English proficiency, chronic absenteeism, and then the last one is also high school related advanced coursework completion. So overall, these are what they look at for accountability. Most apply to what we're talking about tonight. And a refresher of how that is done. So the Massachusetts accountability system consists of two components. They look at a normative component, which is the accountability and percentile, which is what we went over so far. And then they look at a criterion reference component, and they're looking to see if we have met our targets. So we alluded to that when we looked at the chronic absenteeism. We exceeded our target in some areas. We've improved below in others. So they set targets each year for improvement. And so we get a certain number of points, and I'll get into that in a minute. That measure of performance of groups in schools, districts, they look at achievement, student growth, high school completion, English learner proficiency, and some additional indicators, as I mentioned before. And then they take all of that information and they put us on a scale. So that's, if you are in the focused targeted support or broad comprehensive support, that means your school or district is requiring assistance or intervention. If you are not requiring assistance or intervention, that means you're making limited or no progress towards target, moderate, substantial, meeting, and then there are schools of recognition. They're all rated on a number system. As a whole, Gloucester Public School has made moderate progress towards targets. We do have some schools that have made substantial progress towards targets, but as a whole, we have made moderate.
That's 1 through 12. I mean, that's.
That is K,
through
yes,
12?
K through 12, that's overall.
Yeah.
And so this is K through 12 as well. So our classification is we are not requiring assistance or intervention. The reason is because we're making moderate progress. And this score, so if I go back here, you see how the numbers below, they gave us an overall of 42. So that's where we are. Progress towards, we have moderate progress. So how they get that 42 is they look at 2 years, the last 2 years. So last year, we actually received 47% of the points, right? And that is weighted at 60% of the overall score. And you hold on to the year before, which was for us was 35. So, and that's at 40. So they do the math and they get to 42%. So that's meaning next year we will drop off that 35%, hold on to this with 40 and hopefully go higher. That's the goal. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
There will be a test, no. All right, yep,
So, I mean, this is of course an accumulation of a lot of data here
yes,
that they put into that 47%. So, but just to note that, but that's a significant increase, 35%, 35 essentially points, 47. And then as Amy said, and then, presumably we will continue to rise and then have, 47 and next year's percentage, criteria reference target on there. So that shows progress, okay?
okay. Last year, we also presented to the committee that we were put on a statewide system of support because 2 of our elementary schools were identified for needing assistance, target assistance for a subgroup. It's just for one target area, and there was also concern about math and literacy growth trends, and that as they reached middle school and high school, so they put us on the system-wide system of support, and that meant that the district received priority planning support from DESE. They worked with leaders, myself, principals, coaches, superintendent. And we developed learning walks. We talked about that before. We had coaching conversations and we had strategic planning for student outcomes. We also had a team that went to a instructional prioritization workshop in May that included people across the district to kind of focus our priority for instruction. And they focused on equity-based instructional practices. The team of 3 people from DESE, 2 mostly, and then 1 kind of oversaw and came from time to time. I received this email recently, Superintendent and I, and the quote is based on the improvement demonstrated by the 2024 accountability results. Gloucester no longer qualifies for priority assistance. So we have graduated out of that additional support. That is a progress, success, but we need to keep going. So some action items moving forward for ELA. For elementary school in particular, to develop instructional leadership teams to focus on engagement and differentiation of lessons. We are in our 2nd full year for all classrooms to be in the K-5 implementation of Wit and Wisdom. We will have grade level work to assess the amount of scaffolding that is done with students, particularly in writing. And we will have common planning time and PLCs times to look at student writing. Yes.
What do you mean by differentiation of lessons? What is, unbox that just for a second?
So we are going to make sure that we are challenging all students and providing scaffolds or things that students need to succeed. And so the scaffolds are when you make adjustments to a lesson, differentiate, you make some changes in how you approach teaching something. So some students might need a graphic organizer in order to get ready for their writing. Others might be able to go right ahead. Others might need to talk out with a partner and pre-plan. They might need, the younger students might need sentence frames to kind of get themselves started. So how are we going to change what we're doing to make sure that all students can access?
So it's a little more tailored to.
It's tailored,
Okay.
yes. That's
And it can be done within the framework of curriculum, like Wit and Wisdom.
Yes, it absolutely can, and actually Wit and Wisdom and Math and Focus make recommendations on how to do that. And when we did our learning walks at the elementary level, we actually found that some classrooms were over scaffolding. We also want, it's a fine balance. So we want students to have that little productive struggle or kind of moment to think about it and try to work out the problems, but we don't want them to get to the point where they give up. So it's that balance of defining how much differentiation to do, how many scaffolds to put in place to make sure that students are able to struggle with the concept and that, but still move forward.
Thank you.
You saw this on observations.
We found that in observations, yes. And some,
And when you have too many structures or too many things supporting students, you're almost like in that example, students are doing less of the work, less of the intellectual lifting.
Right.
You know, we want to have them, so there's enough, so they're, they're doing the work, not the teacher doing all the work. And they're struggling some, obviously, because that's when we learn, sort of, we're at that sort of zone of development. That's the idea, is that if you structure it too much, have too much support, then kids aren't really, having it, doing that sort of learning.
Kind of like parents doing your homework.
yes.
Yes, that's too much scaffolding.
That's too much scaffolding. And so we have wonderful curriculum in place, but teaching is not just about the curriculum, right? It's an art of teaching, and this is what teachers do every day. And they've learned at elementary, they've learned the curriculum pretty well at this point, and now they're adjusting how to scaffold. And they're, this is where the special sauce of wonderful teaching comes in. And that's what we're focusing on. And we're defining what it looks like, and we're normatizing across the grade levels by learning walks and taking data.
And part of that also is making sure there's enough demand. That's another what I'm saying. There's no demand on the students, so they're pushing and being pushed.
Yeah.
Our action steps for math is to develop, I keep saying ILTs, I'm gonna define it in a minute. Instructional leadership teams to focus on engagement and differentiation lessons, also similar to ELA. School-based targeted tutoring beyond the school day, so we will have tutoring to help students beyond the school day. Common planning time, focus on student progress, strategic grouping for interventions, so at every grade level, so students that are all struggling on a similar task, we put them together so they can kind of work it out together, and get individual support. Our math coaches led a summer PD, a book study on talk moves, and I've listened to several teachers talk about how they integrate it into the classroom. It's really making students talk about math and talk about their thought process and think about, how did you do that? Well, I came about it a different way. What if we did this? And it's developing those mathematical conversations within the classroom, which is really tremendous to see at the elementary level. We will have a continued focus on fact fluency in grades 1 and 3 and with targeted interviews and games. And overall, we'll continue with learning walks to focus on engagement and rigor. We've made progress on our chronic absenteeism, like I mentioned, but we are not at our pre-pandemic rates, so we will continue to work on that. We will use the Link It tool, which is a data warehouse where we can pull data points from multiple points together and really target interventions. We can track interventions. And our ELA and math leaders will have monthly meetings to focus on students on engagement.
ELA math leaders, are they our coaches?
So they are our coaches, but that's beyond that. So we have a committee of ELA literacy leaders and math leaders. They are teachers representing all schools and representing all grade levels that meet monthly to refine the curriculum, to talk about common practice. So that we have a common understanding of what rigor is across the district, what we're looking for engagement. So they'll be looking at all of those things. And I talked about district-wide instructional leadership teams, we have a district-wide instructional leadership team, which are teachers from every school in the district, representatives come together, and Dr. Jarvis and I lead that team, and we are focusing on the instructional priority of the entire district. This is new this year. We want to make sure that the district has a shared vision, shared focus, that we are data driven, collaborative, and we build capacity across the district, and that we focus on accountability. So this is what we're doing as a district, and then at each school, there is an instructional leadership team at every school. And why do we have them? It is so that they provide structure for teachers and administrators to work together to address school-wide instructional priorities and support student learning. It's to have shared leadership across the school, and so that all staff take ownership for the importance of instructional priority and focus. Each team has a representative team of stakeholders from different roles, grade levels, subject areas, coaches, program leaders, classroom teachers, ML or EL teachers, and administration. They must communicate out to colleagues, so it's not a small group committee in a room talking about instruction. They have to then go out as educators to inform their peers and their colleagues what they're working on, what the focus is. They become leaders within the building. They develop and maintain group norms. They use structures to ensure productive meetings. They are centered around data and student achievement. That's the purpose of these committees, and they should meet at least once a month. Okay. And that's high school and middle school have had those for a while. They're restructuring them as this new priority of instructional leadership teams, and they are relatively new to the elementary schools, although some had some in the past.
Are the people on the district team, are they on the instructional team?
Some are, yes.
Some are.
So I will speak for Beeman, and then I'm going to stop talking and let the elementary principals speak for their schools, but since Principal Genotti's not here. Her team is using staff meetings. For teachers, they will receive professional development and increase the use of engagement strategies and SEI strategies. That's shelter English immersion strategies for our ML, our English language learners. Their ILT or instructional leadership team will support the work through learning walks. So we're going to continue learning walks across the elementary school. And you'll hear that they're even spreading to the middle and high, for teachers to really see each other teaching, learn from each other, and see the wonderful things that are out there. Highlight exemplars, and offer critical feedback, and partner with teachers to increase rigor within the classroom. The coaches will conduct data reviews every 6 weeks and look at students' trajectories towards benchmarks. Tier 1 and intervention planning will be adjusted accordingly to provide greater opportunities to differentiate or scaffold those lessons as needed. So that's the focus of the humans. You'll see there's a common thread at all of them, but they each develop them. Looks like you have a question.
I'm sorry, the learning walks, how often do they take place?
So last year we did 2 or 3 with the state, came in and did a part of the SSOS.
Yep.
And then in addition, part of that gradual release, because we're making some nice progress, each school did at least 2 on their own, I believe. So that will continue at the elementary level. Our goal is to have at least 1 per term. So that would be 3 a year. Some schools are doing them monthly. It's how their school develops it. Yep. At the middle school and high school, we're still in the early stages of developing them, so they're not up and running yet, but the goal is to get there. It's there.
Because the elementary did them last year, middle high did not do them last year.
Right, when the state came in for that statewide systems of support. So I'm gonna pass.
Sorry, Amy, one more question. The learning walks, is that something we developed, or did the state say, hey, have you tried learning walks, or is it?
So it's a good instructional practice. The state helped us develop it. But we didn't just take it out of a book and say, we're gonna do this. We spent a lot of time as an elementary group, the coaches, principals, other elementary teachers involved, developing on what our focus should be. And we narrowed it down for Gloucester Public Schools, and we prioritized part of our instructional focus is we really wanted to improve or focus on engagement, student engagement, and rigor to make sure we have that high standard. So, because you could go for a learning walk for all kinds of reasons. You could go to see if the objective is written on the board. You could do all kinds of things, but we found as a collective group that the most important things to focus on was in student engagement and rigor at this time. Because if you focus on too many things, it's not productive. The middle school and high school, when they develop that, they're going to have to go through that process of deciding what is important for their school. They might land on engagement and rigor. They might land on something else. That's part of the process of developing what they're looking for. As a district, we're focusing on engagement and rigor, so it's highly likely that that will be part of what they look at. But they might find other strategies and things that they're going to do too.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to pass it over to Principal Lesko.
Thank you, Amy. So we have what I think is a very ambitious goal for this year. And I'll tell you why, because I just don't think you can minimize sort of the amount we talked about organizational change, what that means. So what East Veterans really accomplished last year, bringing 2 different schools together into a brand new building with all that entailed. You know, and the learning still occurred, and there were some real areas of strength, as well as areas to really work on in the MCAS course, but we really felt like we got the kids learning right away. So we were really excited about that. So we really feel, we can already feel the difference in this school year, moving on from being a brand new school. The difference has been huge. So we really think we can make some really, really large jumps. So in 2025, we'd like our grade level average for the student growth percentile to be at least 55 in math and ELA, which is moving us towards the 60 that the superintendent has asked all of us to do and challenged all of us to do. And then we're also our subgroups, we would like to be in meeting all targets in the achievement category for math and ELA. And again, they're ambitious, but we think they're able to be accomplished. And we're also doing learning walks. Teachers really liked it. With this year, we've had teachers come to us and really request more of them. So that was really exciting. response to texts, mathematical problem solving. We're taking it at a 90-day pace. Working on writing as well as being, that would be a real focus for us. And getting really into the data from the MCAS exams and benchmark assessments, finding those strengths, and really just monitoring progress. So it's ambitious, but I believe, and the ILT believes, that we really can accomplish all these goals.
So our instructional leadership team is really focused on engagement, differentiation, and in particular, our team is looking to take 10 of our staff and PLC meetings and really design something around universal design for learning. How do you make sure that all students can engage the lesson, that the lesson is differentiated in a meaningful way? And so on November 5th, Amy has a speaker coming in who is presenting on that very topic. And in November, our team will come together and kind of do an inventory of listening to staff about what were their takeaways from that professional development, and help kind of do an inventory of what concrete instructional strategies they can use. And then we're gonna break them into teams that are working on very concrete things in their lesson, in their classrooms, to engage students, to differentiate their lessons. And then those teams will be their own learning walk team. So the learning walks will take shape around the group of people that you're working with. So it might be a first grade teacher, a third grade math teacher, and a fifth grade ELA teacher who wants to really work on designing more, say, graphic organizers or scaffolding tools to implement in their classroom. And then that group of people, that pod, would work to go on learning walks with one another. And again, the goal is to make it less top down and more bottom up, that the work is something that they believe in, but it's also very concrete. And the tangible takeaway is being able to see kind of day-to-day teaching strategies that are being implemented. In short, teaching is a very isolating profession. You know, you go into a room and there's one teacher and 23 students. And how do we empower people to collaborate with one another, and also then take great ideas from one another.
That's fair.
So it's very similar to everyone else's. This is our first year having an ILT. As we finished the learning walks last year, we had a lot of feedback from teachers themselves that they wanted more direct feedback from the learning walks. And so our ILT is working to create almost that reflective learning cycle. We get together and we plan a learning walk, we have a learning walk, and then we reflect on the data, summarize it, and send it back out to our staffs. We're trying to figure out, right now we have a survey out asking if they want to participate and if they would like the feedback. The process that we went through last year with Amy and the state, we changed as a district a few times how we did that cycle, and what was meaningful for them and purposeful. Sorry. So that's all right. He gave me his screen, so we wanted to do that kind of cycle piece to it. The other thing that happened for us as a staff is we decided at the end of last year, delving into what does it mean to participate and invest and drive. What does participating look like? There are 3 categories, and that higher levels of participating are participating, investing, and driving.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, our teachers, that's
what I was gonna go
You
by.
can click off now, Matt's given it to me.
I got it.
So our teacher leaders Our math leaders, our literacy leaders, our coaches, our clinical staff are all helping us as we look at that continuum to define those pieces of engagement. So we have a 6-part series in our staff meetings on engagement. We've had our first meeting where we defined for us as a staff, what does engagement look like, sound like, feel like, and how all those pieces come together and our lens, trying to broaden our lens and then think about how that can impact classroom instruction for all of our students. And then give people opportunities to learn from each other by being on the walks. And then we've done a lot of collaborative scoring in the past of student writing. Using this protocol, we collaboratively come to an understanding, and then are most of the students engaged? Are some of the students engaged? And that discussion helps teachers understand what each other's thinking and helps them grow their own instructional practice. And so our ILT said that's what we found the most beneficial, and so that's going to be our emphasis. We'll have small teams and we'll spend most of our time doing collaborative, coming to a collaborative feedback page, and then being able to share that with the teachers who want that feedback back. And then a summary from the ILT out to the rest of the school about what are we working on as a school community to meet the needs of our kids.
So for the elementaries, the learning walk tool that we developed, and I wanted to pull it up because Dr. Emma was talking about it. So we are focusing on engagement and rigor. And then there's a few check boxes. And then it particularly talks about our students, because when we first did it, when we say, are the students engaged? I might walk in the classroom and say, yeah, they're very engaged. And Mr. Pesco might walk in and say, I didn't see that. So we had to define and find a nice common understanding of what engagement was. And so we looked to Fisher, Frey, and Hattie, and they have this continuum of engagement. And so you're engaged in one way or another. Right now, you're all engaged in this thing. Hopefully, you're not actively disrupting or disengaged, right? So that would be this end of the scale.
That would be a problem.
Right. I'm also hoping that you're not looking for ways to avoid work or get off-task behavior, right? So that would be disrupting or avoiding. You might be withdrawing. I hope you're not, but you could be. And these are all disengagement. We assumed, as a Gloucester Public Schools, we decided we're assuming they're all engaged in some form. If they're disengaged, that's a different problem, but that's not what the purpose of our learning walk is. So we looked at the right-hand side of this. So you can be participating where you're just paying attention and responding to questions. You're just participating. But if you are investing, like in Smellville you're asking questions, you're valuing your learning, you are investing is the level of your engagement. You are asking questions, you're taking notes, you're in it. Or you could be driving where you're seeking feedback, where you're doing self-assessments. That would be the most active form of engagement, right? What we're seeing is we have a lot of students in this participating realm from our learning walks. We would like to push, and particularly Dr. Emil talked about in her ILTs, they're focusing specifically on pushing students into that investing and driving level of engagement. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Good. That was an unplanned
Little
change.
sidetrack.
Little sidetrack.
Kind of like it.
There you go. All right, so we're gonna go back on track here.
Extension. Thank you.
I'm gonna try that again. Yeah. Sorry. This should do it. Okay, so now we're gonna go over to O'Malley.
Can I ask?
Before we do, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple, sorry.
Any questions for any?
Elementary before we go
Yeah,
to.
that's what first of all, I think I was in the productive struggle for 12 years. Education. It's pretty good. I don't think I ever got out of it.
There's unproductive struggle as well.
That's what happened. Just a couple of quick comments or observations. One is that the word engagement, I think about that, and I know I was only there for a day, but I was like, wow, every class I went into, and it's not like they were all handpicked. I noticed how engaged the teachers were with the students, and I was like, wow, that's. I mean, without getting granular about it, I was like, that was pretty impressive to me. And there wasn't a lot of kids just sitting there quiet. The teachers were engaged with them. I thought that was really good to see. I guess my first thing is, do we rotate teachers off the ILTs, or is it the same people? I mean, you're just starting, so is the plan to kind of rotate them eventually, or keep the same?
We switched up probably half the members on our ILT from last year to this year.
Okay.
Some volunteered to, we actually had a lot of people want to be on it, so actually I had to turn some people away.
You want to have some folks who sustain year
Yeah.
over year for
Yeah,
a while,
yeah.
and then some new folks, and then, then some of those folks will cycle off sort of thing. So you want to have some folks who, are helping other folks know how to work.
You want to have a range of positions.
Yeah.
You want a
Right.
special ed member and
They are
EL
rotating,
teachers.
they are rotating teachers who do the learning walks. So that all teachers have an opportunity to do that. And that's done in different ways. At Plum Cove, it's in pods, they're kind of a team, everybody participates. In other schools, it might be, these teachers are doing it this month, another group might be doing, so they are all participating in one level.
And do the teachers, do they have the option of taking like that form that you showed? Do you have to accept, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, can you say, I don't really need the feedback, I don't want the feedback, or do they take the feedback?
So last year, we didn't do any names on anything, and so
Oh.
feedback was really only global as a school.
I see.
And so I think every school's in a different place. So that's why the ILT sent out the survey for West Parish. Do you want your name? Do you want specific feedback to your classroom from a team of peers? And that's the question we're asking right now.
I get you.
But even without names, we were able to say, at this point in time, it's a dipstick, right? So when we walked through the school, we found that 83% of students were participating at some level, or whatever the number was, but so, and then you can talk about that and how can we up that number for the next time we do it? It's a way to track it.
Yeah, and you only visit a teacher once. I mean, you do the walkthrough one. I mean, teachers have bad days just like everybody else, it's.
Right, and these are not evaluated at all.
I see.
These are teachers learning from teachers. These are teachers practicing their craft of teaching. This is learning from each other. This is seeing where the school is on engagement, where the school is on rigor. And it's not an evaluative measure at all.
And my last one was on the differentiation there. Is and I guess you already answered it, the curriculum is flexible enough to allow for that, I guess is. Okay.
And so as Amy said, you can get curriculum materials or a program, which are one of two things. Either aren't quite flexible, or are flexible, but don't provide resources to help support teachers in modification. Okay, Wit and Wisdom and Desmos are the third one, which is they are flexible and they provide your resource materials, tools to help support teachers with modifications. So, but again, there's, and so that's like the sweet spot, basically. You still want to make sure that folks are, doing the curriculum with fidelity. So it's actually the curriculum as opposed to something, that's just, hit or miss, or is very different from, classroom to classroom. That's the power of the coherence, that we're striving for, is that it helps kids build year to year. Things are, the progression is linked, and then sets them all up on equal footing for the next grade or the next, next level.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. I know we've just gone through MCAS, but are there any particular assessments that you find are more informative in terms of, we know that our regular assessments are more actionable because we have the results. We don't wait months for the state to send them out. So are there any, are they all useful for different reasons or similar reasons?
I like our district benchmarks. I also like the progress monitoring. progress monitoring is really informative. Last year, when we changed to class and everybody was learning the technological side of it, it slowed down our progress monitoring a little bit. And our teachers all said, no, we need to get back on a really familiar cycle. We need to be able to assess our kids and see where we're going. So we have, I feel like between literacy and math, we have the tools that we need to help students make the growth across the year.
Right, over to O'Malley. Do you want to share the action steps or do you want me to? I'm kind of getting tired.
Our action steps, right? So,
That's right.
yeah, so, when we're looking at ELA, we've got our second full year of implementing, Amplify. You saw some of those scores were a little bit more towards the direction that we want to be, and you can see the comfort, with that as, teachers becoming more familiar with that. Well, that makes it a little bit tricky.
I don't know why that happened.
Yeah, right. Okay. Quill is a sort of an application that folks can use it to get a little bit more focused grammar practice. That was one of those things that, this is the benefit of working with these curricula more and more. You start to see where we are missing pieces. So we're adding Quill.
And that is part of Amplify. It's an app within our Amplify program, so if we can add it on separately.
We took the 100 lesson pathway. Things take longer than they do on paper, so we didn't do the full 180, but now we're understanding where we need to fill in particular, on emphasis on writing more. Targeted writing instruction daily, really in relation to the text that kids have in front of them, right? So making sure that that STEM is being built up.
Yeah, and to jump into it too, every lesson within Amplify does have it's called a write. And it's like a 10-minute write. Whereas when we were piloting Amplify and going through maybe the first round, teachers didn't necessarily realize like, okay, I can jump in and add my, something from my little bag of tricks. I can add more scaffolding. The kids don't know what a claim is, or they're not able to write a claim, even though Amplify doesn't tell us that we need to go back and reteach it. Now, okay, we know we need to go back and reteach it. So they're now going through and realizing where they need to add more instruction specifically related to the areas of writing and grammar within the program.
Yeah, and then, we've been doing the data teams, we're gonna continue pushing those, but one here about reading and writing and also subject areas, I think it's more obvious at the elementary level where teachers tend to teach more subjects that they're weaving literacy throughout everything. When it starts to get compartmentalized up at the middle school level, we need to do a little bit more work making sure that the role of literacy, writ large, is not just the burden of the ELA teachers, right? That's something we can be practicing and working on across the curriculum. So we'll be focusing on that. First full year of implementation of Desmos, as I said, they, at least anecdotally, way further along already than they were able to get last year. I'm getting much more comfortable with it. A lot of discourse in the classroom with the students, and going back to talk about the writing, Desmos, one of the things that we really liked about it, it really at each step of the way forces students to write and discuss their answers, right? Which, your typical sort of compute this problem style math doesn't necessarily ask them to do. And so this really raises the rigor and the level of thinking, and creates math as actually a highly engaging and collaborative process, which is nice to see.
Which one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing that we did notice with Desmos is that it focuses on the higher level thinking. It's not just the answer, it's how did you get to the answer. But there are, when we look at our STAR data, which is a predictor of the MCAS scores, there are many gaps that the students have when they come to us. And so when you're pushing the kids along in a highly rigorous curriculum of grade level content, what do you do for the kids who are so, having trouble with their basic multiplication maps. Or maybe they missed a standard and they aren't quite so secure in it. So we did get IXL, which is an adaptive practice for students, so they can go on as a do now in class. Some teachers are assigning it as homework, they can do it at home. What it does is the kids go into a virtual arena. The program gives them a couple of questions. They get to choose which one they feel more comfortable answering, and then it kind of branches off. They get 2 more questions. It kind of evaluates where they are. So it's another piece of data. We can see the different strands of mathematics, where the kids are. This data has been super helpful this year as we're looking at, okay, what gaps do we have from last year where we've highlighted these different programs, where do we need to backfill? And then the cool thing about this is it goes into what the kid needs. There's little videos embedded. There's extra kind of, it's like individualized learning that they can do aside from the Desmos curriculum.
There's some overall action items that we're doing, and some of this is being spearheaded by our ILT, other parts are taking place in other parts of the building, but we want to start beginning peer observations, slightly different than a learning walk, where learning walk is meant to get sort of a global temperature check of different things you're working on in the building. These are really much more individual to a teacher who is wanting to work on something or is wanting feedback on something, and this is, so what we're really doing is building out protocols so that staff can get coverage to go see another teacher, learn from each other, and have conversations about that and kind of make their work more public. We have the benefit of being in all the different classrooms and we see it all. They don't get to necessarily see it from each other, so we're trying to make sure that that can happen. Prior to the year before I came on board, there was an instructional focus that was developed, and it's a really good instructional focus. I like it a lot, and I was happy to be able to take that and move forward. But we realized we need to do a little bit more work with that. That's the developing the instructional practices and engagement routines as it relates to what the staff has said. This is what we want a classroom to look like at O'Malley. Work that we started last year is really just making sure that our lesson objectives are clear and having an embedded formative assessment that the student is aware of at the start of the class, so that that kid can come in and know at the end they can do a self-assessment and say, I had a good class today, I got done what I needed to do, right? It shouldn't, I kind of think of it as, it shouldn't be a surprise moment to moment what they're learning. They should know upfront, this is what we're gonna be learning today, and here's how you know that you did what you needed to do. We're doing a lot of work with our paraprofessionals right now as well, to develop them and sort of do a little bit of work understanding sort of how some disabilities present themselves and best ways to interact with those students and better support them. And then finally, just the Linky tool, you heard that already addressed, but we're really trying to dive into that to use that for more actionable instruction, so that we're having more regular data cycles rather than just our data meetings.
Millie also has an instructional leadership team.
Yeah, so see some of this is overlap, some of it is new. So I've been working with them to understand what is it that they feel they need, helping us in planning the professional development. And some of this, some of that conversation is where we came up with some of the professional development that we're going to be delivering to our ESPs as well. And then as we start thinking about how we want to dive deeper with our school improvement plan, they're going to help drive that and be able to help plan what is the work we've been doing and where do we need to keep going. Sort of the production work that we're going to be doing is that peer observation protocol, developing the look-fors for engagement and instructional practices. We also are going to be building out our own learning walks. That process does take a little bit longer. It's just, we have to decide what we want our collection tools to look like, what we're going to focus on. A little bit different than the peer observation can be a little bit quicker because it's a little bit more lower stakes, it's a little bit more individualized. This has to have a more of a global learning piece, so there has to be more consensus on what that's going to look like, which is why we're bringing it to the team. Feedback last year. We want to make sure that we're getting some feedback from staff that to make sure that we're heading in the right direction, that the SIP is getting the returns that we are looking for. So we're going to be developing some feedback for staff And also just making sure that, we're working on a lesson plan template. Slight revisions rooted in something that fits with the new curricula we have. And that also is, meeting the gaps that we have, making sure students have a chance to learn and we have some consistency across, classes and grades.
Just a couple, maybe two questions. IXL data, I mean, so I'm a parent of Bobby or Betty. My kid's doing this IXL stuff. Like, how does is a parent even aware of that? I mean, does it, like, when they come in for a conference, does the teacher say, hey, a little bit of extra work, I got them involved with this IXL thing? I mean, what does that look like, I guess?
Yeah, so we have just started it. We had our first data team meeting for math on October 1st. At that meeting, some teachers who are really, great with technology have jumped right in. We did have training last year. We have another training on the professional day on November 5th. We have different ways, like, we're kind of looking at how to inspire kids to go on and practice. We can put competitions, like how many questions they've answered, how many questions right they've answered. So we're looking at ways right now, sort of how we're going to be using it. Right now, I'm not quite sure. We're still in the learning process of how to report data to parents. But kids should be able to log on at home and show their parents what IXL looks like.
And if it's assigned as homework, I mean, the teachers can see, hey, he really did go on and at least made an effort. I mean,
Yep, it logs how many minutes the kids have done it, logs how many questions the kids have answered, how many right or wrong they've gotten. And then it does, the teacher reports will show, they give them a score in the hundreds. So like an 8th grade student's score should be around 800 or 810,
And I think, just to your point, one of the things that we are gonna have to develop moving forward is as we're coming up with more and more metrics that we're using to measure student learning.
Yeah.
Outside of just your traditional grade. It is a matter of making sure that we're doing a good enough job at educating families and the students themselves, right? Nobody likes to be told to do work and then not being able to understand what the feedback is that you're getting. So I think as we start to get more comfortable with these new tools for us as a staff, that then helps us understand, all right, how do we make this, user-friendly for the families and for the students so that they have a better understanding of what they're looking at. So that is part of the process right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all the questions. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Yeah, see you all.
Thanks so much.
We like having you here, but we understand it's a very, very long day.
Yeah.
That's fine. We'll be bearing with that a little bit. Is subcommittee report, the building and finance subcommittee met prior to this meeting. We talked about CBTE grants that Ben talked about one of them now, and I think next time I will let you provide more detail on the other ones, which are much bigger and equally exciting and impactful.
And they're not in front of you for approval tonight, so just sort of giving the BNF committee a preview of them, because they do involve in part building structure. But yes, we'll give you a full update.
Yeah, and we'll just think of having more attention to that while we're approving them will be helpful. We talked about the process of the place where we're at in terms of electric buses. We're at a procurement process stage to gather more information just to see what bids would come back and what it looks like, making sure we can compare costs and evaluate decisions going forward. And we know that the timeline was extended in terms of committing to any contract whatsoever. Out of district special education and transportation. We are only 1.5 months into the school year. So we are projected to stay within the budget that we have. prior, at the beginning of the year, we had 8 students we thought might be in need of being placed outside of the district, and 5 of them have recently been placed, but we're still within that the budget allocation that we requested and are tracking. So that is a monthly thing that we do. And we also have other needs possibly within the district that may take some of those budget dollars as well. So that's evolving as we're trying to meet the needs of students. And Mike Jarvis, the new special education director, is, as he's having his input into what he's seeing and what is needed. So that may evolve through the school year. And we talked about circuit breaker, which came in about $52,000 less than what we had hoped. And that's because they did not fully fund transportation. So if anybody sees any state representatives or senators, we need to just continue advocating for full funding for this particular aid, because the dollars are substantial when they can't fully fund it. But it also reflects on the fact that there's a lot of need across the state, so therefore the pie that gets dispersed goes, every district gets less because there's so many more requests. So hopefully that sends a message to the state as well in terms of overall funding. So that's the okay, we have grants to accept. So under action, I move that we accept the Gloucester Education Foundation, Gloucester High School Carpentry Annex Grant in the amount of $17,000 as presented by the superintendent at the beginning of the meeting.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, roll call.
Mr. Melvin,
Yes.
Chairperson Clancy.
Yes.
Mr. McKee.
Yes.
Mr. Minio.
It's
Yes,
yes.
it's not.
I think
we need it vocal, but can you unmute and do that?
Mayor Verga.
Keith, you need to unmute and do it verbally.
Yeah, sorry, just had to find the right window. Yes.
Okay.
And yes.
Second grant is I move that we accept the Gloucester Education Foundation O'Malley Innovation Middle School 6th grade seminar grant in the amount of $26,786.67.
Second. So
Okay, any discussion on that?
What is the seminar, just
We would like it.
college style seminar for 6th graders?
So it's a course during their day, and the 6th grade only goes to that seminar, obviously. And they teach skills and strategies and help with the transition to middle school. So it helps them kind of navigate well as a middle school.
Great.
Any more? Okay, roll call vote, please. Second.
Mr. Melvin.
Yes.
Chairperson Clancy.
Yes.
Mr. McKee.
Yes.
Mr. Minio.
Yes.
Mayor Verga.
yes.
Okay, next grant, I move that we accept the fiscal year 2025 IDEA grant, 240 grant in the amount of $1,010,469.
Second.
Any discussion? You want to say what this is?
This is the typical special education budget. The grant that comes in.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Melvin.
Yes.
Chairperson Clancy.
Yes.
Mr. McKee.
Yes.
Mr. Minio.
Yes.
Mayor Verga.
Yes.
Okay, and finally, I move that we accept the fiscal year 2025 IDEA 262 grant in the amount of $27,678.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any questions? This is preschool focused on special education focus. Yeah.
Mr. Melvin.
Yes.
Chairperson Clancy.
Yes.
Mr. McKee.
Yes.
Mr. Minio.
Yes.
Mayor Verga.
Yes.
Okay, that concludes the grants that we are
Sorry,
accepting.
did you do budget transfers? You do budget?
That was on the
You did.
consent,
Oh,
and we didn't do
okay.
tonight's because that'll be on next week's.
Okay,
consent.
great. Thank you very much.
Okay, next item under action is the second reading and vote on the revised policy recommended by the program subcommittee. And it is file JICJ, use of personal electronic devices by students. We have distributed to us the revised wording that we discussed last week, the last meeting.
So there's two copies in front of you. One just says draft, and the other says 1022 draft. The one that says draft has the, it's in blue, but it's the edits that you asked for. There were edits in 2.2, 2.3, and on this, it's on the back, on the last line. It's on the back of your paper. And the other one that says 1022, 24, that's this cleaned up and on one page. So the changes are in blue. If you want to see what was changed.
I move acceptance.
A second.
Okay, discussion. Got some discussion.
It's like what we discussed, so I'm ready to go.
I don't have time discussing.
Okay, well, I will just say, just very quickly, that I am so pleased with the positive feedback. There's no one I have talked to that is not talking about why this is important and why they support it, and to hear it from the teachers is just really great. You know, the one thing I would hope is that enforcement is consistent among all educators, so that we don't start slipping away from this, because I just think in terms of protecting the school day for students is really important. And I think it's really beneficial for multiple reasons, as we've heard through things. So I'm happy to have us get to this point. The work by the program subcommittee and the administration. I think it's a really great look.
Can I just share an anecdote, observation I made today at a restaurant? We talked about when we had the teachers here, how the students are actually talking to each other. So I was at a restaurant waiting for the order, and I just noticed a couple older than I was just sitting there, this far apart from each other, just on their phones, like they weren't even in the same room. And I was like, that's pretty sad if someone in their 60s or 70s is doing that. And now we're on the way to encouraging teenagers to, re-engage with society and one another.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded.
I would like to say something.
Okay, go ahead, Keith.
Well, I just want to reiterate my preference for, as I stated previously in the last meeting, that I'd rather have the language consistent and with the middle school and the elementary where the phones are actually turned off my preference would be for kids coming into a classroom to have them power down their phones rather than just leave them on while they're just waiting for them at the end of class. But otherwise, I do support this policy wholeheartedly. Just that I feel like it could be a little stronger.
And for the record, I will read the blue line updated wording in both 2.2 and sections 2.2 and 2.3, which is now in the policy as must be turned off, silenced, or put in non-communication mode and placed in accordance with the student handbook. So that is the updated, and I realize there are options there, all with the intent to make them not a distraction. So, okay, so roll call vote, please.
Mr. Melvin,
Yes.
Chairperson Clancy.
Yes.
Mr. McKee.
Yes.
Mr. Minio,
Yes.
Mayor Ruff.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Well, it's the other.
Nice work.
Okay, we are now going into executive session, and we'll only be coming out to adjourn. So we are entering executive session for two purposes. First is to enter executive session pursuant to executive session purpose 3 of Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Gloucester Association of Educational Paraprofessionals, the Gloucester Teachers Association, and the Massachusetts Nurses Association. And second, to enter executive session pursuant to executive session purpose 3, Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Melvin,
Yes.
Chairperson Clancy.
Yes.
Mr. McKee.
Yes.
Mr. Minio,
Yes.
Mayor Verda.
Yes.
Good night, everybody who joined us online. We did not have any attendees in person.